I'm sure many of you have heard the claim that Jewish communities in Judea Samaria, the West Bank, are an obstacle to peace. I've always been perplexed by this notion.
אם את יכולה להזמין פלסטיני לפה, או אפשר להזמין
לא, אי אפשר להזמין.
יהודי
אי אפשר.
אם יש לי חברים, כן?
נו. אבל אין כניסה לערבים בבתיים. אנחנו לא נותנים להיכנס לערבים.
וזה נראה לך הגיוני הדבר הזה?
בסדר, את לא יכולה להחליט שאת רוצה עכשיו להשתנות. תלכי תשתני, אבל את לא יכולה לשנות את כל הרוח שלנו הראשונית של היישוב. את מבינה?
Israel's diversity shows its openness and readiness for peace.
אני חושבת שזה באמת גזעני, לא להכניס לפה, זה לא רק ערבים. זה ממשיך, כאילו. אנשים שהם לא יהודים. אם אני אגיע למקום שיגידו ליהודים אין פה כניסה. בסדר, אבל אולי זה זמן לפתור את הבעיה.
לא ככה, לא מול הטלוויזיה.
Since when is bigotry a foundation for peace? At this moment, Jewish school children in Judea Samaria are playing in sandboxes with their friends. Does their presence make peace impossible? I don't think so. I think what makes peace impossible is intolerance of others.
מה דמיין?
שאני הורגת אנשים. ערבים שרודפים אחריי, שרוצים להרוג אותי.
באת לטנק, יורה בכולם, טק 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 טק, הורגת את כולם? איך הרגש?
הרגשתי מאושרת.
אני מדמיין שכל פעם אני רואה מולי ערבי מת, זה ממש שמח אותי כבר יותר.
Does their presence make peace impossible? I don't think so.
אני חושבת שאני אהיה חיילת קרבית.
כן?
שריון.
אז אתה רוצה להיות תותחן שתהיה גדול? אתה רוצה להיות בתותחנים?
כן.
ואיפה אתה רוצה להיות?
בחיל האוויר, שיורד טילים מהאוויר.
איפה בצבא היית רוצה לשרת? בצפון, בשטחים, בעזה, ביהודה ושומרון?
לבנון, הייתי הכי רוצה בלבנון.
אבל עכשיו החזרנו את לבנון, אז אין לנו מלחמה בלבנון.
לא נורא, נחזיר אותם לשם עוד פעם.
אתה מקווה שעד שאתה תהיה חייל, תהיה לנו מלחמה כבר עם לבנון עוד פעם?
כן.
Societies that respect all people are the ones that pursue peace. Societies that demand ethnic cleansing don't pursue peace.
Images from another time, when Palestinians still worked their land. Few Palestinians, if any, could imagine they were to become victims of what would later be known as ethnic cleansing.
A small group of Zionist leaders and military commanders met regularly on a weekly basis from February 1947 to February 1948 for a whole year, planning the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. They didn't decide about it in a day. They had weekly meetings, and in each week they became more and more convinced that this was the right way forward.
During the first 3 months of 1948, Jewish paramilitary groups carried out dozens of attacks on Palestinian cities and villages.
A direct challenge to the United Nations and its powers of war prevention comes from Palestine. The definition of legal and illegal forces becomes daily more obscure. Haganah, the force first legally raised for the defense of Jewish settlements, appears to function hand in glove with Irgun Tzvi Leumi, the outlawed terrorist army.
The well-trained Jewish forces began to put their plans into action. On February the 15th, 1948, fighters from the Haganah and Palmach organizations attacked the village of Caesarea near Haifa. A young man called Yitzhak Rabin is believed to have been one of the field commanders in the assault. Over 1,000 Palestinians were expelled from Caesarea as the village was torched to the ground.
What the Zionist forces did, they targeted 5 villages on the coast and experimented with them to see whether it works. And they expelled the inhabitants of 5 villages under the eyes of the British soldiers who were there or still there until May 48. And they found out that it was quite easy, that it didn't take much. There wasn't much resistance. The British did not interfere.
Ask yourself this. Would you accept ethnic cleansing in your state?
The final meeting was on the 10th of March 1948 when they drafted the plan known as Plan D or Plan Dalet, which finalized the last details about how to expel the Palestinians and dispossess them.
A diary entry from Ben-Gurion exposes the extent of the Zionist agenda. He writes, "In each attack, a decisive blow should be struck, resulting in the destruction of homes and the expulsion of the population.
1948. For Palestinians, that year is Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. When hundreds of thousands were forced out of their homes.
There's a phrase for that. It's called ethnic cleansing.
At dawn on April the 9th, 1948, a combined force of Irgun and Stern Gang fighters moved into the village of Deir Yassin, near Jerusalem. The result was a massacre. Over 100 Palestinians were killed, including women, children, and the elderly.
From Haifa, heading north to Lebanon, came right past the trade school entrance gates. And it was a sad sight to see many poor Arabs, some with pickup trucks, cars, beds on the top, some on foot, never-ending stream of Arabs coming out of the city. The Jews to drive a lot of the Arabs out of Haifa. Very sad sight. We could have stopped all that. There was no doubt about that. We had the armor to do it.
"50,000 Arabs were forced to flee their homes in Haifa, never to return. Today, a memorial stands in the city. Erected by the Israelis, it commemorates what they call the liberation of Haifa.
It's called ethnic cleansing.
Although designated as part of the Arab state in the 1947 UN partition plan, Jewish forces set their sights on Jaffa. During the last week of April, bombing of the city intensified. The city's inhabitants were forced to flee the shelling, by sea to Lebanon and by road to East Palestine and Jordan. By May the 14th, 1948, the Haganah had taken control of Jaffa. 70,000 of its inhabitants had fled. The remaining males were transferred to central detention camps. Detainees were forced to bury the corpses of fellow citizens now rotting in the streets. They were also forced to transport the contents of Arab homes ransacked by Jewish fighters.
There's a phrase for that.
Half of the Palestinians who became refugees were already expelled from their houses by May 1948. So I could say that out of the 530 Palestinian villages that were destroyed in the 1948 Nakba, half of these villages were already demolished by the 15th of May.
On July the 10th, the Jordanian forces pulled out of Lod and Ramla. Clear of Jordanian forces, the two cities were bombed by what was now the Israeli Air Force. The Israeli army then moved in, commanded by Colonel Moshe Dayan. In Lod alone, over 100 Palestinians were massacred inside the Dahmash Mosque. More than 50,000 Palestinians were expelled from the two cities. Walking without provisions in the summer heat, many died of exhaustion in what has since become known as the Lidda Death March.
The Palestinian men of Tantura were taken to the cemetery, and there they were told, they were put in lines and they were told to begin digging. And whenever a line finished digging, they were shot and fell down inside.
Ethnic cleansing is an ideology that wants to get rid of one ethnic group in its entirety from the place where it lives. The second stage of ethnic cleansing is to erase these people from the place's history. So it's also a cultural act of erasure, of wiping them out of history, out of memory. And the third stage is to make sure that they will never come back.
Ahead of the full British withdrawal, more than 350,000 Palestinians were driven from their land.
لو كان شخص يهودي يعيش في تل أبيب في يوم 15/5 أي ثاني يوم بعد ما أعلن الدولة، أذهب إلى مكتبي إذا كنت أشتغل في دائرة الصحة وأجد كل السجلات موجودة وكل الأعمال موجودة ومكتبي كما هو ناقصا شيئا واحدا فقط، وهو أن زميلي الفلسطيني قد هجرناه وطردناه من وطنه. ولذلك
استلموا دولة كاملة.
ولذلك أنا بقول إنهم استلموا إسرائيل instant state، دولة جاهزة ناقصا أهلها الطبيعيين.
Take a moment to think of the implications. Ethnic cleansing for peace is absurd. It's about time somebody said it. I just did.